Mr. Tenzin Tsundue is a renowned Tibetan writer, poet, and activist whose works have resonated deeply with audiences around the world. Born in a Tibetan refugee settlement in India, Mr. Tsunde's journey is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. His poetry and writings are imbued with a profound sense of longing, resilience, and hope, reflecting his personal experiences as well as the broader struggles of the Tibetan people. So without further ado, let us move on to the highlight of today's event, the inaugural and keynote address by our esteemed guest, Mr. Tenzin Tsundue. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tsundue to the dais. Sir, please.
Ellarkum namaskaram. This is not something I learned just now. I've been coming to Kerala for the past 20 years. And I did my BA from Madras, Loyola College. அதுதான் தமிழ் தெரியும், தமிழ் எழுதுறேன், படிக்கிறேன், எல்லாம் தெரியும், சூப்பர் தமிழ். But the Tamil that I speak is called the vulgar Madrasi dirty Tamil. Especially those who are from Madurai, Salem, so they find our little Tamil that way. So, thank you very much for the invitation and all the good words that you said. And yet, the hard reality is I am a refugee. I don't have citizenship of any country. Tomorrow if I'm arrested or beaten or something, there's no country coming in my aid because I am a refugee. We are in the process of fighting for the freedom of our country. In the year 2019, if you actually try to recollect and remember, you must have seen some images or videos of Chinese President Xi Jinping coming to Chennai. Try to recollect that Xi Jinping was having coconut with Indian Prime Minister Modi ji. Remember that? The Chennai summit? At the time, I got arrested because I was going out to protest Chinese President Xi Jinping coming to Chennai. I was arrested, I was thrown into jail. I was in jail for 12 days. At the time, when I got arrested, the SHO, Station Head Office, the inspector, someone called Saravanan in Pondicherry. So I said to him that you are arresting the wrong person. You should arrest Xi Jinping, not me. Exactly like that. He also laughed at me like, okay, now go in. So I was sent into jail. I stayed in jail for 12 days, during which Xi Jinping not only came to India, a section of Chinese PLA soldiers also aggressed into Indian territory. So for a moment there was a tension. India did not want Chinese soldiers on Indian soil. At the same time, Chinese president coming to Chennai and showing that we are going to be friends. So India sent a very strong message. Either you take back your soldiers from our borders, or you don't come to India. This is a news most people don't know. But it happened in reality. And that was the last time Xi Jinping came to India. When I was released from jail, after being inside jail for 12 days, I said to Saravanan again, I'm telling you, you arrested the wrong person. You should have arrested Xi Jinping. But now I am going, but you made a mistake. Saravanan was saying, okay, now po. He didn't get the point. Then year 2020 happened. In the month of June 2020, there was a clash at Galwan Valley. 20 Indian soldiers were killed. More than 100 Indian soldiers were injured. And when the bodies of those 20 Indian soldiers killed, when these bodies reached Indian villages, mothers cried, the entire villages came to cry. I called Saravanan again on phone. I still have his phone. We keep exchanging Diwali and other things. I called him again and said, I told you, you made a mistake. You should have arrested Xi Jinping. Then he was saying, yes, you're correct. The Chinese people are worst enemy. Then he understood what I was trying to say all this time. See, I am in a very difficult situation of being born in India, being a refugee, fighting for a country where I cannot go. And not only this, China has invaded Tibet for the past 74 years. And in the process, China has been mining in Tibet, bombing mountains and mountains, and taking away gold, copper, lithium, rare earths, making cheap made in China products, especially electronics, and they sell it to countries around the world. And all these countries, almost about 190 countries trading with China, benefited at the cost of Tibetans. In the process of 70 years, more than 1/6 of Tibetan population died under Chinese occupation. China destroyed all our monasteries. Tibetan Buddhist monasteries were destroyed. People were killed. Monks and nuns were disrobed, and their study places, research, libraries were burned and destroyed. And now, entire international community, they are trading with China and dependent on China's supply chain. I have every reason to be angry. And I'm now in such a helpless situation that even the United States is scared of China. India, of course. And this is my situation. Really helpless situation. A situation from where I am trying to not only keep the struggle alive, but see a hope in the future. And many of my Indian friends, they say that you don't stand chance. Tenzin, tera to chance hi nahi hai. So it is this place from where I am not only working for the freedom of our country, but also writing. And I'm going to speak why and how writing creates and recreates hope when there is no chance. I started to write first time in Bombay when I was doing my MA English Literature in Bombay University. I went to Bombay because I wanted to become a writer. My graduation was not enough. And also because in between my graduation and post-graduation, for a year, I did a funny trick in my life. After my graduation from Madras, I went to Ladakh, taught English in a Tibetan school for a year, and then gave up on my life in India. I quietly sneaked into Tibet to fight China. I crossed Ladakh-Tibet border on foot, crossing the Himalayas at 4,000 meters above sea level, alone. My idea was to cross into Tibet, live among nomads there, and start a revolution inside Tibet. As much as I was good in planning crossing the border, I equally miserably failed in doing anything inside. So I got arrested by the Chinese soldiers inside Tibet. I was blindfolded, I was arrested, taken to different places. I was beaten, tortured, deprived of sleep and food, and I was in jail. That was the most difficult moment in my entire life. A life where I saw no hope, I saw no way out. And somehow I survived 3 months of jail and I was sent back. Then I went to Bombay And because my physical activism going inside Tibet and starting a revolution failed. I went to Bombay, I was studying English literature. I thought maybe I got a second chance. I did not think I was going to survive in Tibet, but I did. So I went to Bombay to train myself to work for the freedom movement by writing. And it was a great experience being in Bombay and also learning how to write. I fell in the company of Bombay poets and some of the biggest Indian writers in English, either in textbooks or who are still living at the time, were there. And I was a young university student going to attend these readings. So we used to have something called poetry circle meetings. Every second and fourth Saturdays, we used to have poetry circle meetings at the New Marine Lines near Churchgate. I don't know how many of you actually know Bombay. Near Churchgate, there is a New Marine Lines road, and in that, there's a Theosophy Hall building. On the ground floor, we used to meet and discuss poetry. It wasn't a big gathering, just 10, 11, and maximum 12 poets used to come together and read. I'm talking about this because poetry is very often either idealized as something playful and funny and interesting, or extremely difficult to write and never finding any understanding of it, and people fear reading or writing poetry. I'm going to tell you the story of writing poetry, the process. So at the time when poets gathered and read, it was such a serious ground that when a poet read his or her piece, the others would immediately jump on it, and with criticisms, the poem will be torn apart of its narrative technique, of its construction, of the basic core idea of the metaphor was wrong, or the imagery is not sitting. The imagery is hard while the content is liquid. So there was a problem of texture in poetry, that the voice is over assumptions of other people, and the personal voice was not coming forward. It sounded pretentious. The poetry would be torn apart, and there would be a bloodbath there. I'd seen that. And now if I tell you about the people who I met and people who discussed poetry at that time, you would be jealous if I said that the person who was leading this discussion was Nissim Ezekiel. Students of literature would know Nissim Ezekiel is considered the father of Indian writing in English. And he was there, alive, between 97, 98, 99, right up to 2000. After year 2000, he lost his memory, and then in 2004, he died. I was his friends. So I used to not only listen to other people, I was able to show some of my writings to Nissim. And now some of the most celebrated Indian writers in English today, like Jerry Pinto, Arundhati Subramaniam, T.R. Joy, Prabhanjan Mishra, Imtiaz Dharkar, Eunice D'Souza, Dom Moraes, Arun Kolatkar, Dilip Chitre, Arvind Krishna Mehrotra from Allahabad used to come in once in a while. Vivek Narayan used to come from South Africa, coming to Bombay. Used to have those kind of readings. I do not know whether you have a literary circle or a literary club or poetry club, but it will be good to have such a club where people of common interests come together and read your poetry to each other, test how it sounded. Did it actually go out in the way you intended? Or what different ways of interpretations are there in the same poem? And it is good to receive those kind of critical analysis, other than just being nice. The worst appreciation of any poetry is the word nice. Because this is the beginning of the of the end of any criticism. Nice actually means nothing. How's the rice? Nice. How's the poem? Nice. How's the song? Nice. How's the dramatic? How's the movie? Nice. It's the most lethargic and archaic use of words. Look for something genuine. So I started from there. And there was one point of time when we used to be invited to some of the rich people's homes for afternoon teas and cakes and pastries. The entire group of like 10 to 15, we used to be invited to rich people's homes. And there, because I didn't have a place to stay, so I wrote a poem called Space Bar, a Proposal. I'm going to read the poem. It's called Space Bar, a Proposal. Now, this poem was inspired by a momentary feeling, because I didn't have a place to stay, and when I went to these rich people's homes, I felt like saying, "You have such a nice place. Can I stay here?" You see, there is this intermittent kind of a funny moment where you could almost make a rude proposal to say, "Can I stay in your house?" But I loved that idea. So you see where inspiration is coming from. How do you capture that moment of inspiration? Very often we don't know whether that imagined idea, whether it's a good inspiration to catch and seriously work over it, or just a fleeting moment of whims and fancies. Sometimes you get such an idea. And I turned that source of inspiration to say, "Can I stay in your house?" into a poem. And this is the poem. I'm going to read the poem here. The poem is a proposal to the rich people to say, "Can I stay in your house?" The poem says, "Pull your ceiling halfway down and you can create a mezzanine for me. Your walls open into cupboards. Is there an empty shelf for me? Let me grow in your garden with your roses and prickly pears. I'll sleep under your bed and watch TV in the mirror. Do you have an ear on your balcony? I am singing from your window. Open your door. Let me in. I am resting at your doorstep. Call me when you're awake." So this was my proposal. I made 20 handwritten copies and gave it to 20 rich friends who had big houses. And now look at the audacity of the poet. He goes up to some of his friends and asks them, "Did you consider my proposal?" And many of my friends were surprised and saying, "Tenzin, what proposal?" And I said, "Arey, wo proposal I gave you in the form of a poem. Did you consider?" And most of my friends were saying, "Oh, I thought it was just a poem." So you see, poetry is a serious joke. But it is also a place where unimagined conversation happens. Between you and your ideas, or between you and the other. What has not been said can be written in poetry. What can never be said can also be written in poetry. What has never been written in the entire world can be written in poetry, because poetry is essentially a language of imagination. The vocabulary of poetry are metaphors, are written in imagery, are written in music. This poem that has been prescribed in your texts in Calicut University, When It Rains in Dharamshala, this was written in Dharamshala, truly. So Dharamshala is a small hill town in Himachal Pradesh. And I live in a small rented room. It's almost about 100 years old, a British bungalow. I don't own it. I only pay the rent. And I'm able to pay the rent and live in this house because there is a court case going on the house. So while the landlady of the house and a neighbor who are contesting on the possession of the house, nothing can be changed in the house. So I am able to pay the room rent and stay there with 4 other friends. So this is the house on which I have written the poem. But this also has to do with Dharamshala. So Dharamshala is a small hill town in Himachal Pradesh. It's the place where His Holiness the Dalai Lama lives. This is also the place from where we run our exile government. We are still hoping that one day we will be able to return to our own country. And while we wait our transit camp is Dharamshala. So for us, Dharamshala is the place of hope. It's a place where we train ourselves for future. It's also the place of memory of the past. So it's a point of transit for us. I know you get a lot of rain here in Kerala. And I've always seen in social media about Kerala being inundated in flood waters. And sometimes you are stranded in your own house and the maybe ground floor is flooded. I've seen such kind of images. But the rain in Dharamshala is quite so much. It's not like your cats and dogs rain. But in Dharamshala, when it rains cats, dogs and donkeys. So much rain in Dharamshala. And it rains for 3 months. June, July, August. Till in the beginning of September, it would continue to rain. And when it rains there, you would feel, standing on the hillside, that your house, your room is going to be washed down the hillside right down to Kangra Valley. Is there anyone who has come to Dharamshala? Anyone who has visited Dharamshala here? No one, yaar Emilia. Do come. It's a very interesting place. I'm scaring you because of the rain, but I'm telling you, Dharamshala is most beautiful during the rainy season. Not for the rains. In between the rains, when the rains is stopped and sky is clear and blue. And from the height of McLeodganj, there's a small hill town. From the height, you could actually see a lake on the other side, on the western horizon. That lake is visible during rainy season. Otherwise, because of the smoke from Punjab and Haryana, it gets covered. So the lake is visible during rainy season. And if you look up on the majestic Doladhar mountain range, right on top is the snow mountain range. And then is the Rocky Mountains. You get to see pine woods and rhododendrons with red flowers. You get to see entire hillshade is red with rhododendron flowers. That's the beauty of the Doladhara mountain range in Dharamshala. But there is a warning. If you come to Dharamshala during the rainy season, bring your Jones and poppies. Don't bring cheap Chinese umbrellas. They will go tatters like tissue papers because of the Dharamshala rain. So here's the poem, When It Rains in Dharamshala. When it rains in Dharamshala, raindrops wear boxing gloves. Thousands of them come crashing down and beat my room. Under this tin roof, my room cries from inside, wets my bed, my papers. Sometimes the clever rain comes from behind my room. The treacherous walls lift their heels and allow a small flood into my room. I sit on my island nation bed and watch my country in flood. Notes on freedom, memoirs of my prison days, letters from college friends, and crumbs of bread, and Maggi noodles rise sprightly to the surface, like a sudden recovery of a forgotten memory. 3 months of torture, monsoon in the needle-leaved pines, Himalaya rinsed clean, glistens in the evening sun. Until the rain calms down and stops beating my room, I need to console my tin roof, who has been on duty from the British Raj. This room has sheltered many homeless people, now captured by mongooses and mice, lizards and spiders, and partly rendered by me. A rendered room for a home is a humbling existence. My Kashmiri landlady, My Kashmiri landlady at 80 cannot return home. We often compete for beauty, Kashmir or Tibet. Every evening I return to my rented room, but I'm not going to die this way. There has got to be some way out of here. I cannot cry like my room. I had cried enough in prisons and in small moments of despair. There has got to be some way out of here. I cannot cry. My room is wet enough. So this poem, When It Rains in Dharamshala, maybe afterwards when we keep time for discussion, please do tell me, were you able to read the poem in the way I did? Maybe not. Because we all read the poem, whatever poem, in our own way. And that is our interpretation. And I read it perhaps a little more emotionally because this is my story. And my poetics is that I try to tell the most painful story in the most humorous manner. That's my poetics. And there is always a story. My poem, there may be some description, but essentially it has to be a story in the poem. I've written this poem, a very short poem about horizon. It's also about journey, traveling. And that I'm saying, from whom you have reached the horizon here, from here to another, here you go. From there to the next to the next, horizon to horizon, every step is a horizon. Count the steps and keep the number. Pick the white pebbles and funny strange leaves. Mark the curves and cliffs around, for you may need to come home again. So you see, in writing this, I'm constantly seeing not only what I see, but how I would like to show the world I have seen to my audience, my readers. When I first started to write, I wrote a poem called The Tibetan in Mumbai, because I was in Bombay, and very often I was recognized more for my face. Obviously, that's the obvious thing that other people will see. And it's just that I've been introduced here as the guest speaker, and also as a Tibetan and poet and writer and all of that. But if we are to meet each other at the bus station, at the railway station, on the road, obviously you wouldn't think of me as a writer and whatever. You would actually think, oh, there's one Nepali there, one Ching Chong Chinese, there. I mean, that's how I'm usually seen in India. It's every day that I'm looked at by other people saying, hey, Ching Chong, Jackie Chan friend, brother. Yeah, you may not face this because you live in the area where you are, your face is a majority. But when I travel, I face this every day. So one of the first things that I started to write about was about that identity. So in one of my first lines actually said, I'm more of an Indian except for my chinky Tibetan face. And in one poem called The Tibetan in Mumbai, I wrote a poem called The Tibetan in Mumbai, where I'm writing in this, it says, the Tibetan in Mumbai likes to flip through the midday. Midday is a daily tabloid and a newspaper. The Tibetan in Mumbai likes to flip through the midday, loves FM, the radio channel, radio channel, FM, loves FM, but doesn't expect a Tibetan song. So here in this poem, when I say the Tibetan in Mumbai likes to flip through the midday, loves FM, but doesn't expect a Tibetan song, here is where I am able to find my own voice. You see, we all belong to different communities, cultures, languages, different identities. as human beings, as Indians, as Asian, as women, as men, as students, as teachers, as Brahmin, Dalit, tribe, whatever, we all have so many boxes that we all belong to. And most people actually like to stay in these boxes. They don't write. They just don't come on stage and make the opinion in front of other people. Writers do. And what writers try and what they achieve is, when they say the opinion public, they are able to achieve this as universal, that a large number of people actually agree with them, or they feel represented in the writer's opinion. And so in writing this, I am able to recognize that here is what I feel, and here is a unique perspective. I am saying, I don't demand Bombay to play a Tibetan song to the only Tibetan in Bombay. I'm saying there's no harm in not expecting it. So there I saw a little sense of humor, but also recognizing one's own voice. So writing starts from there. Writing starts from finding your own voice. How do I look at it in a unique manner? And how that becomes my own very personal point of view. How this can be representative of a large number of people. This is from where you start to write. Now I'm going to share with you a small process of writing. And maybe after that, if there is any questions, we can discuss. Very often, writing is romanticized by saying, I'm going to go to the lake shore, I'm going to go high up in the mountains, I'm going to be alone with the breeze in my hair, I'm going to write poetry. Such romanticization about the idea of writing has been a stereotype in many places. But to actually work in that romanticized notion is not possible. People don't write because there is silence. People don't write because there is wind or breeze in your hair. People write because you find inspiration. And inspirations are not necessarily found in quiet, silent places. Inspiration can be found anywhere. Even now, for example, you may be sitting here, pretending to attend and listen to me, but your mind must be wandering somewhere else. So maybe you are already seeking that inspiration. So the three processes of writing. As a writer, through my own experience, I want to share with you 3 stages in writing. And the first stage of writing is observation. It's not just seeing, but observing. Carefully study of what you are seeing, experiencing, feeling, intuition, how you smell, the texture with which you touch. Sometimes, you put your hand in your bag without even looking at it. By texture, you actually know what you're looking for. Your hand bears eyes and take out exactly what you look for without even looking at it. You have trained your hands in that. So observation. Observation is the beginning of all writing. From observation, you are inspired to write. And I tell you how. Have you been to gardens and jungles where you have seen this symmetrical, beautiful pair of leaves that you want to go and pluck it and keep in your notebook? And now, because we have mobile phones, you want to go closer to that symmetrical pair of leaves. You want to take a picture. And you want to tell everybody, so look at this symmetrical perfect pair of leaves I've never seen. You're about to take a picture, and then suddenly that pair of leaves is moving. And you realized that it is not a pair of leaves. It's a butterfly. You see, your observation has changed the reality. It doesn't mean it was not a butterfly earlier. It had always been a butterfly. Your perspective made it into a pair of leaves to you. and your observation changed it, and you saw the reality. This is what happens. Now that you have a new realization, the new finding, the new discovery is that it's not a parrot, it's a butterfly. So the first stage is observation. The second is change of perspective. Now that your change of perspective has happened and you have a new realization, you have a new story, this is what you want to write. And in order to write, you have to create a new language in writing. Common day-to-day communication, like how I'm speaking now, it's not enough to write the new realization. You need to create a new language. And therefore, a writer's language is always a set apart, a different thing. You see? And therefore, writers are considered gifted because they are able to write in a new language with which they are able to chart and bring into reality what they had seen and felt and discovered. So that third stage is called articulation. So the three stages. First one is observation. Second one is change of perspective. And the third, articulation. How to articulate. You see, very often people say writing is expression. You know, poetry or stories. Very often people say writing is expression. Writing, more than observation, more than expression, is understanding. How to make sense of it. Making sense of a very complicated, complex situation. Making sense of it. Making a truer understanding. Bringing clarity. This is the first part of writing. And then giving it an articulation is the second part, which then becomes expression. So you see, writers bring to you an understanding that had never been seen by others. So writing has two compositions. One is the understanding, and the second one is the articulation, the way it has been expressed. And that's why writing is so very unique, because every new piece of writing has a new understanding, has a new perspective. You don't read writing like newspapers. Newspapers give you perspectives. Newspapers gives you mostly facts and figures. Now, these days, newspapers are so commercial that they actually sell products through news. They are actually using the medium. But writing is not quite like this. Writing is not based on facts and figures and statistics. Writing is based on human experiences and brings about new ideas and perspectives. So this is the writer's experience that I wanted to share with you. At the end, now if there is any comments and questions, of course we can discuss. At the end, I just want to share a little bit about being the writer. In my journey firstly as a Tibetan, writing in English, where English is not even my mother tongue, it's second language. And maybe with many of you, it's a different language. And you have not only studied this, you have practiced it, you have turned that into your own language. Now it's happening around the world, here in India and many other countries, that people are, especially the younger generation, we are going to be placed not only in one language, not only our mother tongue, we are going to be placed in 3 to 4 different other languages. In my case, Tibetan is my spoken language. Then there is English, which is my academic reading and writing language. I don't write in Tibetan. I can write in Tibetan, but it doesn't become so well as I do in English. Then Hindi is my language of survival. Just the other day what happened was, on this journey, I always carry boxes of books to sell on my journey. At the Ernakulam Junction railway station, there were some people who thought that I was a foreigner because looking at my face. And the coolies wanted to charge me much more. The moment I spoke to them in Hindi, like, "Are ye to wahi hai," they just left and went away. See, thinking that I was a foreigner, that they could charge me more money, they came after me. The moment I started speaking Hindi, they just left. They lost interest. अरे वही आदमी है, उसको क्या charge करना? चले गए. So you see, Hindi for me is a language of survival. And Tamil for me is a language of luxury that I can show off once in a while. So like that, I think we are all, this is the scenario now in Europe and America and here in India and many other places. We are now going to be restricted not in one but 3 to 4 other languages, and this is the reality. And it's increasingly urban, and now because people are immigrating to different other towns and cities, and there are a huge number of people having mixed marriages. The new writings in India is going to be about the new experience, about being mixed, about finding our own identities in such mixed marriages and languages, cultures, religions, so much of things happening. So this is a new trend of Indian writing in English is going to be. With this, I will conclude here. And if there is any questions and comments, we can now discuss. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.